right, we'll go ahead and get started and call the meeting to order at 7:01. Welcome to the Columbia Heights Public Schools Independent School District 13 Board Meeting of Tuesday, June 23rd, 2015. If you would, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you and welcome again. Lori, if you would, roll call, please.
Lewis. Here. Nichols.
Here.
Palmer.
Here.
Larkin.
Here.
Landwehr.
Here.
Meyer. Here.
Thank you. Columbia Heights Public Schools mission statement. Columbia Heights Public Schools creates worlds of opportunity for every learner in partnership with supportive small-town communities by challenging all to discover their talents, unleash their potential, and develop tools for lifelong success. Our core values are community, excellence, collaboration, integrity, respect, courage, and innovation. Next up in the agenda, approval, adjustments, announcements, and correspondence. First item is the approval of the agenda. Could I get a motion to move that forward, please?
Motion. Second.
Grant, second by Ted. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Announcements, July 3rd, Friday the 4th of July observed. District offices are closed. July 21st, Tuesday, 7 p.m., regular school board meeting, community room, tentative. August 11th, regular school board meeting at 7 p.m. here in the community room. August 18th, Tuesday at 6 p.m., school board work session here in the community room. August 25th, Tuesday at 7 p.m., regular school board meeting in the community room. September 7th is Monday, Labor Day. District offices will be closed. And September 8th is Tuesday, first day of school for students. Nicole, standing in, do you have any correspondence?
None at this time, Chair Larkin.
Okay, thank you. Next up is communication to the board, citizen employee representatives. At this time, any citizen or employee may briefly address the school board. The board will listen to brief remarks, ask clarifying questions, and if desired, request the administration follow up. The board will not take action at this meeting on requests presented at this time. And Elizabeth Lentz. Okay, next up is the consent agenda. If I could get a motion to move that forward, please.
So moved.
Laura, thank you.
Second.
Molly, thank you. Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, it's a short one, so you don't have to listen to me read for too terribly long, but we have acknowledgements of contributions. So I'll actually ask for a motion and a second to move it forward, and then I'll read that.
So moved.
Motion by Ted,
Second.
second by Grant. I'll read it, and then if there's any discussion, we can do that at that point. Acknowledgement of contributions resolution. Whereas Minnesota statute 123B.02 permits school boards to receive, for the benefit of the district, bequests, donations, or gifts or any proper purpose and apply the same to the purpose designated. In that behalf, the board may act as trustee of any trust created for the benefit of the district and for the benefit of the pupils thereof. Therefore, be it resolved by the School Board of Columbia Heights Public Schools, Independent School District Number 13, that the school board accepts with appreciation the contributions detailed in the background in the amount of $2,745. And the detailed background are monetary. A donation of $900 was made to Highland Elementary by Horace Mann, David DeJarnett Agency for Math Tools. The following donations were made to the Columbia Heights High School Scholarship Program. Leslie Snyder, $125. Georgianne and Edward Schulte, $250. Barbara and Richard Osborne, $125. Anonymous, $650. Shirley A. Jackson, $50. And Sarah Vagey, $20. Value in kind, a donation of a Wacom digital drawing table to Columbia Heights High School from Dave and Mary Sandberg, estimated value of $450. Donation of office supplies to Highland Elementary from Julie Addison for student needs, estimated value of $50. and donation of a tuxedo to Columbia Heights High School from Casey Mahon for student needs, estimated value $125. Total fiscal year 2014-2015 monetary contributions to date, $104,435.50. Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none. Lori, if you would, call the roll, please.
Nichols?
Aye.
Palmer?
Aye.
Larkin?
Aye.
Landwehr?
Aye.
Meyer? Aye. Lewis?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Next up, discussion reports, information items, reports from members of the board. Board members will report on board activities since the last regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Education. Molly, would you care to start tonight, please?
Yeah, it's been pretty quiet. I attended the work session last week, and that's it. Thank you.
Lori?
My report is the same as Molly's, just the work session, and that's my report.
Ted?
Not much to add there, except that we talked about board evaluation, which I think is a good, healthy sign of a healthy board, so that's great.
Grant?
Just the work session and a few grad parties for kids.
Laura?
I was a little busier. I actually got to attend one more graduation over at Metro Heights Academy over in Fridley. And they actually combined, I believe, also East was also there and one other school. And I do apologize. I'm more familiar with the Metro Heights kids, so I got to meet with a couple of students from Columbia Heights, which was awesome. And then I also attended a 916. It was kind of a work study session. Where we went over the academic return on investment. That we went over some of the data, some of the case studies, and they were kind of explaining it out to the rest of the board. We're more familiar with it because we're participating in the study, and both ourselves and Fridley both evaluated the AVID program, and it was kind of interesting to see how we rated it was based upon our MAP scores. And how Fridley rated it was on a raise in the GPA. So I thought that was very interesting to look at the same data from two different points of view. So I thought that was very interesting. We also had a discussion on school board orientation because 916 is a very complex district, and there's a lot of information that you need to know right from the very, very beginning. So they're putting together basically a website kind of seminar, kind of search data mining thing so that new board members have access to more information. You know, because even just a 2 or 3 hour meeting where they give you all this information is really not quite enough. You know, being able to go back in and check it, and but that's not up and running yet. So as soon as it is, we'll get access to it, and then everybody can kind of see what's going on there. The other thing we were also discussing too, and is on occasion, if a school board member over at 916 is absent, that it's pretty customary to send a substitute board member, but we're kind of discussing the rationale on having that particular board member voting, because you don't have a lot of the background for it. It seems, I mean, I suppose the elected board member could say, you know, this is how I want you to vote on this, that, and the other thing, but that's not appropriate either. So we had kind of a robust discussion about that, and there'll be more coming in the future. And then, of course, I also attended the work study session here in our district, and I had a conversation with a couple of board members. That's pretty much it.
Thank you. I also attended the work session. That's all I have to report. And I was just telling you guys, as much as we'd love you to stay, don't feel obligated. It's a beautiful night out there, so if you want to stick around, we'd love to have you, but just so you know, okay? All right, next up on the agenda is World's Best Workforce. Yes? And our presenter will be Dwayne Burkus, Director of Teaching and Learning, and Zena is here too.
Chair Larkin, Director Hallaby, members of the board, pleased to be here tonight with my colleague and esteemed colleague, Zina Stenvik, soon to be Director Stenvik, just a matter of a couple days. But we are here together to really give an update on WBWF, World's Best Workforce. And wanted to start by just giving a reminder of what this particular set of laws is and how it impacts our building, our district. So, yeah, sorry, I'm not moving. Okay, that'll do it, sorry. So again, with our mission statement, creating worlds of opportunity for every learner, I think that fits well with the opportunities that come with being part of the world's best workforce. Really talking about community when we're talking about world's best workforce, our connection to, and we'll talk quite a bit about this, our district advisory committee, and of course excellence in terms of accomplishing academically and with life skills all that we need to so that kids can compete in our world. The world's best workforce really comes from the statute in place now that says we must all, in all districts, have a plan to support teaching and learning that is created with the world's best workforce. So in other words, getting that strategic plan in place. And so what do they require us to do? They require us to measure performance, to see how we're doing in terms of the assessments, mostly MCAs, but we do need to measure this for comparison to how we are doing compared to other countries in terms of our ability to compete. We know that it's a new world and that most countries now are measuring their performance as well. That we plan strategically again, that we communicate annually, and that we include community leadership. So we're going to take each of those and talk about each one of them separately.
So as part of the requirement, the measures of performance are closing the identified achievement gaps, making sure that all students are ready for kindergarten, measuring third grade achievement in terms of literacy, and students attaining college and career readiness before graduating from high school, and that graduation rate from high school.
And then again, the strategic plan that we have must really be connected, so they're looking for that coordination between a strategic plan and the many other plans that exist. For example, all of our schools have Title I plans. We have an achievement and integration plan that we must submit to the state on an annual basis. We have a Read Well by third grade plan, and we have college and career readiness plans. So all of these really need to flow from and complement our district strategic plan.
The next requirement is communication, and so in order to fulfill that requirement, we have an annual public report, an annual public forum that typically takes place in the fall, periodic community surveys, and then an annual report to the Department of Education.
We also, as we had mentioned, do connect to our community through the District Advisory Committee. And this group is there to provide recommendations, so it's not a decision-making body, but it is a group that comes together to provide recommendations to the board regarding rigorous academic standards, student achievement goals and measures, including district assessments, and program evaluations. So this particular year, we have been meeting with our District Advisory Committee and wanted to give you sort of an update on some of the things that we have talked about.
So at one of the meetings, of all things, I presented on AVID and college and career readiness, of course. And the District Advisory Committee was able to ask questions and hear about our plans with AVID, College Possible, and then Operation College Bound as well was an update for them. So from that discussion, the Advisory Committee gave us recommendations, and here they are. So the first was to continue to invest in college and career readiness programming, and to find ways to support students who aren't in any of the current programs. So, for example, we've talked about how we can expand Avid Strategy school-wide. And then broadening and deepening communication to parents on the college and career readiness options. And so part of that, our action steps that we took was to put the life skills and the benchmarks on the website in an interactive way that parents can click into and see more information. So that was one of the direct requests that came from this committee.
We also talked with them about best practice. What does the research say? What are we trying to focus on in teaching and learning to improve the performance of our students? We talked about the importance of teachers working collaboratively. One head is usually not as good as several heads when they're put together on to think about how to solve an issue or to get better at something. Teachers working collaboratively, one of the most powerful things we can do. Using assessments to improve teaching and learning, not just to see how kids did, but how can we get kids to do better. So using it in a way to inform our decision-making for how we teach. So stronger teacher and student relationships, something that's probably common sense, but how important it really is that no real learning takes place without real relationships. And so emphasizing that in all that we do. Intensive academic support, sometimes it needs to get down to a more intensive level, smaller numbers of kids, more time. Those things are important for kids who need extra help. And then always having those high expectations, that we don't lower expectations for our kids, that we believe that they can do it. So our recommendations from the committee back in very strong voices, I think we heard, yes, remain committed to those high expectations. Believe in our kids, just a really strong plea that we never lose sight of the fact that our kids are capable. We just have to keep our expectations high and help them meet those. And that really, we have a community out there that in many ways would like to be able to connect with us, and we need to find more ways that we can tap into those resources within our community to help with mentoring or to help with tutoring. Sorry, then I will also do the next one, which is on homework, which was a very interesting conversation, one that came up in another parent advisory group that it was our GT parent advisory group that really came up with some concerns, questions. So we brought it to WBWF District Advisory Committee as well. Talked about what the research says, and then really looked for recommendations. And I think that one of the reasons that we felt it was an interesting thing to bring forward was in comparing notes from what parents were saying to us, that different teachers and different buildings have different philosophies, very different approaches. And a question on, is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? Should we have a consistent policy or a consistent approach to homework across classrooms and across buildings? So it brought up a lot of interesting debate, and so we spent some time looking at what the research says about homework, and I think, again, probably nobody's saying that homework is a bad thing, but that homework can provide a lot more help at the upper grades than what it seems to show at the lower grades. Now, lots of things that we could get into there. It actually gets quite interesting and quite deep, but bottom line was, as far as recommendations from our group, was that we do consider bringing some consistency and possibly even having some kind of policy in place with guidelines on homework to build consistency across buildings and classrooms. So something I think that still is in need of research, but definitely a lot of interest in the groups that we talk to about the impact of homework on home life and what we as a district can do to improve just the way we are communicating with parents and the impact of that homework. And then just again, considering that when we work on this, that we consider the impact on families. So when we're sending homework home to families where parents may have limited time or education, and how are we mindful of that as well? So homework should not be something that tears families apart. It should be something that builds rapport among families and school and supports student learning. We are also talking about the math adoption that's coming up in the next school year, and we have talked with different publishers about different programs that we may want to pilot. We brought this to the District Advisory Committee as well and talked with them about the process that we are in as we look at a math adoption for our elementary schools. This is always a big discussion. You've probably heard for many, many years now, probably for at least 20 or 30 years, education has been known for its math wars, where different philosophies have competed for dominance in terms of what approach a district will take. Hopefully that's not what we will get, but we did want to bring it to them and ask them what they would recommend. And it was interesting, very practical things I think that they brought forward. The request that we use what we have in terms of technology or the binders that go back and forth through Avid to provide parents with many examples of how math is being taught. So math is not taught always the same way that parents have learned it, so can we give many examples of that? Also that we have curriculum nights across all of our buildings when we do bring our math program in, so that teachers can introduce this program in a more substantive way to all parents. And so I thought those are very good practical suggestions for how we move forward with a positive implementation, strong implementation once our decisions were made. Again, this would not be for this upcoming school year, this would be for the 2017 school year. Finally, we've also talked with them about different pilot programs that we are in the process of putting in place. Next year, there are two significant ones. One is the Gifted and Talented Classroom at Highland Elementary, and the second is the Media Arts Classroom at Valley View. In both cases, we wanted to make sure that they were aware of our rationale for doing these, to get their input in terms of what they might think of the idea in general, but then also how we can best move forward with them. I think we found that, again, the reaction of the group was very positive. They all felt like if the data comes back, that these are things that all kids should have access to across all 3 elementary buildings. And so timelines for expanding was of great interest to them. They also felt that when we do talk about the opportunities in our district, if this is successful, that we really market this to our community and that we talk about the opportunities that this is providing to our kids to develop 21st century skills, to learn how to use technology, the many kinds of things that will be part of these classrooms.
So here's what's to come. Next year, we'll follow the same process that we did this year. So I will be presenting to you in the fall the data report. So all of the measures that we needed to do or that we collected, so you'll get that. We will put together again the annual report from Curriculum and Instruction, and we will hold a public forum. We will submit a WBWF report to MDE, and we'll continue to have quarterly committee meetings. But I think we have another note about the annual report.
Yes, and just kind of a nice thing to end on. Our annual report that comes out in September of every year was recognized with a national award, and I want to again recognize Director Mayon for this and all the work that he put into it. But according to Director Mayon, we were honorable mention in their awards ceremony, and that we were the only district whose annual report was recognized from Minnesota. So I thought that was pretty good, and wanted to thank Director Mayon for that, all the good help that he's done with us in helping us create these materials. And that's our report for tonight.
Questions or comments, anybody?
I do. Yeah, I was looking at the one committee where you were talking about the Gifted and Talented.
Yep.
And the Media Arts Center, and possible expansion. How would that work over at North Park, since it's not really a traditional?
Yeah, and I think those are really good questions, and I don't know if we really have a good answer for that yet. And I think it's something that we would have to be a little bit different on, probably, but I think in talking with the principals at all of our different buildings, they all feel confident that it can work. Right now, with the Gifted and Talented program, we do have teachers from all three buildings working together to develop the curriculum, including, so we have a teacher, gifted and talented teacher from North Park and Valley View and Highland. And they're all, even though we're only implementing at Highland next year, all three of them are working together to develop that curriculum. And I know all three of them in their minds are picturing how it will be in their buildings. So it'll have a slightly different flavor, but we feel confident that the same approach can be used. It may not be exactly the same, and I probably am not going to be able to tell you exactly what all those differences are at this point. I'll turn to Zena, though, and see if was there anything else to add to that.
Well, we're definitely designing the pilot with data collection in mind, and so we'll, as the year goes through the pilot, we'll be collecting data in order to help make some of those decisions on how it would look in other places, and if we decide to move forward with them.
Okay, thank you.
Just have a comment about the homework. I'm glad to see that you're looking at that homework issue. I really felt that homework is very important, and you know, just intuitively, if you don't get your homework done, it's hard to learn. You know, there's time outside of class that needs to be put into learning. So I'd like to see some sort of a dashboard for the school board to see how well homework assignments are being completed and how we're, you know, progressing in that area. So I just want to make that comment. Is there a question about the life skills? It says, you know, the research shows that life skills are so important for college and career readiness. Is there a component to that as well in your World's Best Workforce plan?
Well, we do, and we did talk quite a bit about when we were developing that whole list of the life skills, the WBWF, and that was more of last year's work, but they were highly involved in helping us figure out how we were going to communicate that, what kinds of skills might be missing that we should add. So there were some revisions that were made even on basis of some of those conversations. It is a core component of, I believe, the statute as well, where they talk about how the world's best workforce needs certain knowledge, but they also need certain kinds of knowledge and skills and characteristics or life habits, whatever you might want to call them. And many of those are within the 11 life skills that our district has identified.
Okay. So there is a plan to help implement those as well.
For this next coming school year, yes, we are, well, this year as well already, we have been implementing it on individual teacher basis across all of our buildings. We've been sharing in our district teaching and learning leadership meetings how that's going, and basically the theme of our meetings throughout this school year was how can we build on that. And so in this upcoming school year, that will be the plan, that we'll have consistent expectations across buildings and across classrooms in terms of how they're going to address the life skills. A lot of really exciting things that happened this year. I think there's a lot of enthusiasm on the part of our teachers to include that in their classrooms, and a lot of very exciting activities that they've built on their own for that. I think if you go into many of our classrooms, you will see them posted. You'll see different kinds of things that kids have been doing around those life skills. So it's been a year to kind of learn from each other, to collect the wisdom of all these different schools and teachers that we have, and in the upcoming school year then to really define with more definite expectations what we will do.
Yeah, because I'm amazed at when I heard that, you know, those skills like persistency and not quitting and continuing to strive for excellence are as important, if not more, than the academic skills in succeeding in work and in college. So, yeah, I think we need to focus on those as well.
Yeah, I think it's, in the life skills I think that our district has, it's quite a set of them. I think one of the hardest things, I suppose, with the life skills is there's less probably research on exactly the best way to teach them and to evaluate whether kids have them. So it's a little more of a process of trying different things and seeing what's sticking with kids. It's in the assessment side of it is something I think that's going to take some time for us, and I think many other districts across the country are interested in this, and there's work going on in different parts of the country. Hopefully, we can all share and benefit from that. The 4 Cs, for example, we are using trying some rubrics right now over at North Park that were developed nationally, and seeing if those are one way for us to be able to better assess some of the life skills that we have.
It'd be a great tool to communicate with the home as
Mhm.
well in
Mhm.
helping develop those. Thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Next is board policies first reading. And we've got the following new or modified school board policies for first reading. 601, which is district curriculum instructional goals. 613, graduation requirements, and 616, system accountability. These policies will be made available for staff and community input and will be brought before the board for approval at a future board meeting. And unless there's any questions on that, we can move.
Brand new, 616, is that a brand new policy? And I
601.
noticed that,
Are they both brand new, right?
is that because of the statute?
Director Burkus, could you come up to the microphone, please?
I had the same question.
Just curious.
Sorry.
Go ahead and ask your question again, too.
Oh, I was wondering if the accountability policy and I think, I forget the other one.
Graduation requirements.
Graduation requirements,
And
those look
curriculum.
like new policies. Are those because of the statute that was
Yeah,
passed?
the accountability one basically is the WBWF policy. And then 613 is the graduation requirements is not, that's been there in place, but there are some new, there's always some changes with that one. That one's where we list our actual credit requirements, and so it's a little, we have to change it a little bit from the state to show our graduation requirements. The big new one that we have is the accountability, and then we also have one on our curriculum, which is basically talking about our, I believe it's 603. Is that the other one? That's
601.
601, sorry. 601, which is new also, which is basically talking about the philosophy behind our curriculum in our district. Both of them really tie closely to the strategic plan, and basically, therefore, our world's best workforce policies. So they are not necessarily new to MSBA. They are brand new to our district, though. We have not had either policy previous to this adoption.
Did these come from MSBA, though?
Yes, yeah, they both come from MSBA and adopted largely verbatim as what MSBA has in place.
And they fit our policy to the best year?
Yes, in fact, in both cases, they really reflect statute. So as we know, there's not much we can do with it. They have to pretty much be put in place as is. They fit prior to WBWF, I think there was always a little bit question of that, but because WBWF is also, statute, coming from statute, it just reflects, for example, the need to have the district advisory committee in place, the need to have your annual report on curriculum instruction to go out, to have those kinds of things in place are put forth in those policy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Another question? Thanks, Dwayne.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, on to the action items. You might as well come on back, Dwayne. First up is Elementary Secondary Education Act grants.
Yes, Chair Larkin, Director Hollaby, members of the board. Just a real quick summary of what I presented on in our last board meeting, that we have Title I to ensure a fair, equal, and opportunity to high education to all kids. The key activities these funds support in our district include many different teachers, including our elementary science teachers, EL support, reading support. It is a big part of our of supporting our parent involvement, the funds that support our parent involvement, and our many continuous improvement strategies. So we did look, or showed you the proposed budget, and we are in the process of working on that at this current time. We also talked about the academic achievement that comes through improving teacher and principal quality that is supported by Title II. And we talked about key activities including classroom embedded coaching, training sessions, the consultative service that we have for early college, and our professional learning communities. And we talked about the budget for that, as well as in Title III, to talk about the English language learners and their attainment of English language proficiency. What are the key activities there? Teacher support, coordination, summer reading program, and family involvement. And so we're asking as part of that, and maybe I'll just say it here, we will also have to have LEA representatives, and so those LEA representatives are the two that will be in charge of submitting those grants to MDE, and that is, in this case, going to be Director Zena Stenvik and our curriculum coordinator, Tara Tuckrell. And I know that those are actually two separate action items, but just to provide the context, this will be, the reason that we do have this LEA representative authorization there is so that they can work with the budget for our title programs.
Okay, so the recommendation of preliminary ESEA Title I, II, III budgets for 2016 is presented by Director Burkus. Could I get a motion to move that forward, please?
So moved.
Second.
Is that Molly?
Yes.
Thank you. Laura. Discussion? Or questions?
I just thought it was interesting that Title I funds also have to be shared with Immaculate Private School in our district.
Yeah, it's part of what Title I does. Any school that, if it was religious or non-religious, if it's within your district, they can receive those funds as well, as long as they're serving the same grade levels that we are with those funds. So it's a fairly small percentage of our total dollars, but we are obligated to provide them with those funds.
So is our role to apply for the funds and then administer them to?
Yeah, our job is to provide a proposed budget for how we would like to use those dollars, and then to show that we have indeed used them in that way. As part of that, I and Director Stenvik now meet on an annual basis with the principal of Immaculate Conception to talk about how they will use their dollars through Title I as well. So we are basically overseeing their use of those dollars as well. So we hire a Title I teacher for them, we evaluate that teacher for them, and we approve any use of their funds for staff development as part of being the LEAs for the Title I program.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion or questions? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to, Director Burkus just referenced it, but the LEA statement for authorizing the title grants. And again, if I understand what you're asking for is this approval of the two individuals that you stated.
Yes, we'd like to ask that Director Stenvik and Coordinator Tuckrell be our LEA representatives so that they can work with the title budgets.
Get a motion to move that forward.
So moved.
Ted?
Second.
Grant? Discussion? Questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Next up is the Northeast Metro 916 Health and Safety Levy Resolution, and Director Holmgren.
Chair Larkin, Directors of the School Board, and Director Hallaby. Good evening. As I presented last meeting, we have a resolution before you tonight to include 916's health and safety levy, our portion in our levy. You can see the resolution before you. The dollars that we levied for next year for Columbia Heights is $2,267. Again, the plan is the same amount for the second year. And just to get perspective, we actually had $5,000 this last year, so that's actually a cut in half from what we had done the year before. So we're seeing a decrease in our health and safety for District 916, and I'm just looking for a approval of the resolution.
Okay, if we get a motion a second, I'll read it and then we can discuss. So looking for a motion to move it forward.
So moved.
Yeah, thank you.
Second.
Lori, thank you. Okay, and it reads as follows. Pursuant to due call of notice thereof, a regular meeting of the School Board, Independent School District 13, State of Minnesota was held on June 23rd, I'm ahead of myself there, sorry, 7 p.m. for the purpose and part of approving the Northeast Metropolitan Intermediate School District Number 916's Health and Safety Program budget and authorizing the inclusion of a proportionate share of intermediate school districts' health and safety projects in the district's application for the health and safety revenue. So the resolution approving Northeast Metropolitan Intermediate School District's number 916's health and safety program budget and authorizing the inclusion of a proportionate share of those projects in the district's application for health and safety revenue. Be it resolved by the School Board of Columbia Independent School District number 13, State of Minnesota as follows. The School Board of Northeast Metropolitan Intermediate School District number 916 has approved a health and safety program budget for its facilities for the 2015-2016 school year in the amount of $39,525. The various components of this program budget are attached as Exhibit A, hereto and are incorporated herein by reference. Said budget is hereby approved. Minnesota Statute Section 123B.57, Subdivision 1, as amended, provides that if an intermediate school district's health and safety budget is approved by the school boards of each of the intermediate school district's member school districts, each member district may include its proportionate share of the costs of the intermediate school district program in its health and safety revenue application. The proportionate share of the costs of the intermediate school district's health and safety program for each member school district to be included is in its application shall be determined by utilizing a blended rate where half of the rate is determined by multiplying the total cost of the intermediate school district health and safety program times the ratio of the member school district's net tax capacity to the total net tax capacity of the intermediate school district, and half of the rate is determined by multiplying the total cost of the intermediate school district health and safety program times the ratio of ADM utilization by district to the total ADM utilization. The inclusion of this proportionate share in the district's health and safety revenue application for fiscal year 2016 is hereby approved, subject to approval of Commissioner of Minnesota Department of Education. Upon receipt of proportionate share of health and safety revenue attributable to the intermediate school district program, the district shall promptly pay to the intermediate school district the applicable aid or levy proceeds. You understood all that?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
There's a lot of pluses and minuses. Questions, comments?
I guess I just want to make the comment that the reason we have to levy this is because of 916 can't do that
Yeah.
since we're a member.
And District 1916 is really a consortium of several school districts, and they don't have any levy authority whatsoever. So when they need to levy something, they go out to the districts and ask us to levy our proportionate share.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else? Hearing no other discussion, being a resolution, we need to do a roll call. Lori, please.
Palmer,
Aye.
Larkin,
Aye.
Landwehr,
Aye.
Lewis,
Aye.
Nichols,
Aye.
Meyer, aye.
Motion carries.
Yep, thank you very much.
Thanks, Bill. Okay. Next up is, on the action items, is an additional school board meeting. The board will be asked to approve an additional regular school board meeting on July 21st at 7 PM. And we had some discussion with Superintendent Kelly previously as to the need or the purpose of it, but I thought I would ask Director Hallaby just to touch on it again before we move forward on it.
Thank you, Chair Larkin, members of the board. Just to remind you that the superintendent is asking if you would have an additional board meeting on July 21st. Some short board meeting, I believe is promised, with a few agenda items, but very importantly, any hiring that might be done between now and then. I know it's Human Resources and the superintendent's and administration's desire to have the consent agenda passed by the board so that we can get them all on board for our new staff orientation the third week in August.
Okay. We'll start with a motion to move it forward.
Motion.
Grant,
Second.
second Laura. Discussion.
I will probably not be able to be there due to vacation, but
Okay.
move forward.
I think there was conversations in the hopes that we would have a quorum, and I don't know that anybody else had gotten
That should be
back
all
to. What's that?
I asked my work, so I should be all right.
I'll be here.
I'll be here.
I will too.
Cool. I guess I can take vacation too, then give them the
There
quorum.
you go.
Any other questions or conversation about that? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. July 21st. That concludes our action items and leaves us with board topics. Anybody have anything for board topics tonight?
I think a lot of us are looking forward to the parade on Friday, the school district unit, and handing out the world-famous Highlander tattoos, so.
Okay. Anybody else?
Can't wait to see our famous gymnastics team out on the parade. So I think that'd be cool.
Cool. Anybody else? If not, we'll adjourn the meeting at 7:51.